Welcome to SVGTV News for Thursday, May 28, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. SVG yesterday recorded 7 new COVID-19 cases following the receipt of 77 PCR results from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CAFRA. A release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said these latest results were received in batches on Wednesday evening and brings the number of positive COVID-19 cases recorded in SVG to 25. The release further noted that the new positive cases, all of whom had previously tested positive on rapid antibody tests, are from 65 tests belonging to Royal Caribbean Cruise Line crew members who arrived in the state on Tuesday, May 26th on the Vision of the Seas. It said the remaining 58 test results received on Wednesday for the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line crew members were negative, with 292 PCR results still outstanding. There are now 11 active cases of COVID-19 in SVG. 14 persons have already recovered. A total of 25 COVID-19 cases have now been recorded. All of the active cases are said to be in isolation. The NEMO news release stated that the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line crew members who tested positive on rapid but negative on PCR will remain in a government-approved quarantine facility until a second PCR is conducted. Crew members who test negative for COVID-19 on both rapid and PCR will be allowed to disembark to continue strict quarantine in approved private accommodations, their homes or privately rented apartments. The Health Services Subcommittee said it will continue to endeavor to first ensure that all individuals are advised of their PCR COVID-19 results before the public is informed. And Minister of Health Luke Brown gave the assurance that all health protocols have been followed and that there is no need for panic over the new COVID-19 cases. The health minister said that he is satisfied with his staff processing and handling of the repatriation of the Vincentian sailors.
The initial number of the crew was 356. Apparently that has been revised upwards to 357. So 357 persons have been tested. I think that the ministry officials have been handling this process, this very delicate, involved, important exercise quite well, and I appreciate that. It's not easy to manage the repatriation of such a significant number of persons, and we are doing, I think, well. The fact that we were able to, in a very efficient way, carry out the rapid tests on everyone, that we were able to complete the swabbing of all these persons, organize the logistics of sending the items to the CAFRA lab in Trinidad and Tobago, and we've been receiving the results on an ongoing basis. I think that everyone involved should be commended.
In reference to in-country testing for COVID-19 using the PCR equipment, the health minister said this is now likely to commence early next week.
I expect that the cleaning and so on will be done and the machine will be put in place by as early as tomorrow, and the other required steps will then follow. So we certainly going to have, well, Monday is a holiday. I expect that by Tuesday we will be able to perform tests at the site.
Residents of Union Island in the Southern Grenadines are mourning the death of the 3 burn victims in last Tuesday's fire at Freddy's gas station at the main business hub in Clifton. Area Representative Terence Oliver, in a telephone interview with SVGTV News today, expressed condolences to the victims' families and all residents of Union Island, whom he said are at a loss. The gas station owner, 72-year-old Freddie North, and 12-year-old Lindani Neverson died on Sunday. The third burn victim, Shaniqua Azaria Alexander, who is seeking medical treatment in Trinidad and Tobago, died last evening.
Believe even from last night, the people still cannot, grasp that this has happened, because they had much hope for the survival of these persons who would have suffered from that fire. I believe somewhere along the line that this community needs healing from what has happened, and maybe, you never know, we have to arrange or do something that can once again get the community to a situation where, to a position where everyone will feel that that they, as as a community in union, that we can heal and we can learn and we can put measures in place. So if ever such thing would have happened again, God forbid, that we will be in a better position to deal with it.
Oliver said that he has been giving support to all of the affected families and was hoping that Alexander pulled through, noting that it was heartbreaking to learn of her death.
I have been there since the accident took place with both families, giving them the comfort that they need in terms of, and also accompanying them at the hospital, being with them in terms of the autopsy yesterday. I was there, and we are trying now to see whatever financial aid and assistance that I can give in terms of what they're needed. We may not be able to give everything, but in terms of trying to help out as far as possible, that it is essential that they have that type of support. And, since the incident, I've been there trying to see how best we can go about trying to get things in place. And now that they have died, it is important that the loved one have died. It is important that we give.
The opposition MP said the 3 victims were special to Union Island, with Freddie North gas station supplying the people with fuel and gas, Shaniqua Azaria Alexander, a great athlete, and Lindani Neverson, a jovial youngster who was well known and loved. Oliver said at some point they will be recognized for their contributions to Union Island in a special way.
In a community such as Union Island, Freddie came to us, and he lived among us. He was instrumental in setting up a business that has supplied the whole of Union Island, not only Union Island, but at times Myro and other Grenadines Island with gas and other automotive supply. The family of the Neverson, Linda, and I know his mother Annis, they have always worked. She has worked with Freddie for a very long time in terms of 1 year running a hotel, and then she move over to his business of gas and providing automotive supply there. And Zara was somebody who's always instrumental, being around and working there on a part-time basis in order to make everything function and work well. So I would just like to, we are trying to see what we can put in place at the moment and put it very quickly to recognize the contribution of these families and these young children, because
the Southern Grenadines MP said that the people of Union Island are of the view the gas station fire could have been handled in a more professional way. Oliver said in his view, proper structures including equipment and adequately trained persons are needed on the island to deal with large-scale emergencies and to get persons who may require specialized medical attention from point A to point B in the quickest possible time.
Heard about certain basic equipments and so, like stretchers and so at the health center not being adequate in terms of managing the fire. We were at a stage where the fire services, had to get help from Gemstar and from Island and another people on the island who have water pumps, and so they jump into action. But clearly, there is I think there was, although the doctor, the nurses, they must be commended for the work that they did in order for us to function effectively. We must have the type of equipment that and resources that are needed in order to provide adequate service in times like these.
In terms of transportation, concerns have been expressed that there was a delay in getting the burn victims to mainland St. Vincent. Oliver said in his view, the Coast Guard service could have responded in a more timely manner.
In terms of transporting the patients to St. Vincent, should have been done in a more quickly and timely manner. And every time we have an incident or an accident, we keep on talking about putting the correct measures in place in order to transport people to the mainland very quickly, to the hospital, to the main hospital very quickly. And there is a need for that, because if we lack certain essential, basic health service, delivery of health service, then there is the need to beef up healthcare in the southern Grenadines, and in terms of getting patients quickly to mainland St. Vincent to get the care that they need, then the transport system must be adequate, it must be efficient, it must be quick, it must be effective in order to help to minimize the loss of lives.
In other news, the Ministry of National Mobilization is continuing the registration process for vulnerable persons across SVG who have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. On the radio last evening, Minister of National Mobilization Frederick Stevenson said that the persons being registered will be in addition to the 500 persons who are already benefiting from the government's interim assistance.
Several hundred persons have visited the Family Affairs Division within the ministry, that's the offices down at Paul's Avenue, and saying that they too are vulnerable and that they need some kind of assistance. What the ministry did, we've started a program of registering those persons who came to the ministry. So we register them, we take their information, and we are in the process of analyzing them so that the ministry can inform the cabinet that hey, there are other vulnerable persons among us, more than those 500.
Minister Stevenson said some of the persons affected are from various sectors, and his ministry will be assessing the vulnerability of these individuals.
Within the budget of the ministry, where we can assist some families have lost a job. Some persons were they were vendors across the schools and that sort of stuff, and some persons who have been working at the markets and lost livelihoods because of the downturn in the economy because of COVID. Many of those persons have turned up at the Ministry of National Mobilization seeking some form of assistance. And
the government minister said some of these persons will receive $200 for the remainder of the year, while the vulnerable persons currently being assessed may receive monies for a shorter period.
We're in the process of analyzing them, and after that is done, we're hopeful that some of them may be able to get a 2 or 3 months assistance from the ministry. Some of them may get long-term further assistance, might be over a period of time. But all of these things are in the process, and we're also moving into communities now, because the vulnerable persons from, say, Fancy, Sandy Bay, and those areas who might have a challenge getting into town.
Yes.
So the ministry, we are moving out into the communities.
The government minister said that 10 home care workers have been employed by the ministry to take care of the elderly in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said that over $200,000 was specially allocated for this home care program as part of the government's COVID-19 stimulus package.
Period. The elderly are the persons who are very vulnerable.
Indeed.
And the government saw it fit to assign an extra sum of money to employ 10 home care providers so that the elderly and persons with disabilities would be taken care of as they go around in the several communities.
Minister Stevenson said that there are now more than 110 healthcare workers across SVG who are taking care of the elderly and persons with disabilities.
To assist them in one way or the other, and we thought that we developed this program where persons were selected and sent into the vulnerable homes, and they assist the elderly with sometimes washing, cooking, combing their hair, grooming them, taking care of them in very special ways. And this program is a program that is looked on and have other countries have.
With SVG said to be in the midst of one of its worst droughts in recent history, the Central Water and Sewage Authority on Wednesday said it is now no longer able to supply over 50% of its customers with 24/7 water supply. In a press statement, the CWSA's Chief Executive Officer, Garth Sanders, said that for the first 4 months of the year, all 5 of the CWSA's major water systems have on average experienced rainfall amounts totaling 40% below the 10-year average. He further noted that rainfall for April was 60% below the average monthly figure, while rainfall for the current month of May has fallen from 248 millimeters in 2019 to just 48 millimeters in 2020. Saunders said at present the CWSA is operating at 35% of its capacity at these 5 sources, and the CWSA has now joined its neighbors Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, and Trinidad in once again implementing an extended system of water rationing to try as far as possible to achieve an equitable distribution of water during a 24-hour period. He said the CWSA would continue to communicate its water rationing schedule to the public via radio and on its Facebook page, noting that there is no guarantee that the CWSA may always meet the scheduled times for turning on and off of the supplies. Saunders says customers should store sufficient water at their homes to cater for this inconvenience. He said they are looking forward to a gradual improvement in rainfall patterns and water supply in the coming weeks. The government is said to be considering its next move on the geothermal project, which is yet to produce the required permeability for the generation of electricity. Providing an update on the project on radio on Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said that while the wells which have been dug on the slopes of the La Soufrière volcano produce heat over 250 degrees Celsius, they have not produced the permeability needed for electricity generation at the required level.
The heat, the presence of the geothermal source, undoubtedly there. The heat, quite in order, over 250 degrees Celsius. So it's a good geothermal resource, except for the important issue of the permeability, because it has to come through. The geothermal resource has to come through the rocks coming up, and you don't have that extent of the permeability. There has to be a testing to to see how many megawatts you're going to get. Clearly, given the lack of a sufficiency of permeability, you're not going to get the predicted geothermal output. So the question will be, at a much lower output, whether it makes sense to go through with the project.
PM Gonzalez said there's another form of technology that is being considered to help get around the permeability issue.
There is another form of technology other than this, which is being looked at. There's a Canadian firm which is involved. And the technical people are pursuing that. But there was a question of the testing to see the extent of what we can get. But clearly it is not going to be what was envisaged before. But as I said, there's another form of technology to help to get around the permeability issue.
According to the Prime Minister, the technology would require particular resources, and whether the Inter-American Development Bank or the Caribbean Development Bank would be prepared to make the resources available as grants for the project is left to be seen.
Because up to this stage, St. Vincent and Grenadines has only spent about $600 and something thousand on project management, maybe a little bit more by now. The last figure I'd seen a month or so ago was $600 and something thousand, which is thus far our contribution. So I want to make that plain, because all the rest of money is either grant monies or contingent grants, and from different sources, where those who are granting the money knew about that the resource is there, but because we couldn't ourselves borrow money to do the drilling, we had the grants for the drilling, and that once that drilling was successful, we will then be involved now with grants to ensure the production and everything. So that's where we are.
The increase of passengers allowed in public service vehicles or omnibuses from 9 to 12 in light of the threat of COVID-19 has been welcomed by the Vincentian Transport Association, VINTAS, which put forward the proposal to the relevant authorities. President of the association, Roy Adams, told SVGTV News, given the economic hardship being faced by omnibus operators due to the impact on their service by COVID-19, something had to be done urgently.
We've also since gotten our capacity increased from 9 to 12. So we are making progress in a very collaborative way, I must say, and in dialogue with policymakers about what is practical and for our members. So we were the one who really made the advancement for an increased capacity, considering that at 9 all our operators were desperately struggling, and in fact were not complying simply because it was uneconomical. The government was very receptive to the request for increase in capacity, and we are hoping that very soon we could see that capacity increase further as we try to get the economy back up and running in the interest of stimulating economic activity.
Adams said the association also thanked the government for its financial support to omnibus operators, lamenting that it was unfortunate that not many used the opportunity to register for the support.
When a government decides to provide you with finance, no matter how small it is, we are of the opinion that you should capitalize on it. You should take it. And it's a bit disheartening to have realized that our operators and owners left so much money on the table in the first disbursement. I mean, we only had about 357 vans taking the subsidy. That's just a little over half of what we expected. So I'm hoping that at the next disbursement, that we can see closer to 100% receiving the next disbursement. And that would bring a certain level of satisfaction to us at the leadership of Vintas to see more and more of our operators receiving the subsidy. no matter how small it is, I think it's something that you can utilize and put towards some sort of operational expense, or even provide some support for your family.
93 students of the St. Martin's Secondary School recently received tablets to enable them to participate in e-learning, which has been encouraged in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The tablets were donated by the school's Past Students Association. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, chairperson of the St. Martin's Secondary School Board, Bishop Gerard County, thanked all the persons who made the donation possible.
I thank very especially the North American chapter of the Past Students Association for making this possible. In fact, I also want to single out, I don't think anybody will get jealous, Mr. Petra's Roms, the IT teacher, who had this in place before the pandemic. In fact, they were responding to online testing. They got prepared for that. And then the coronavirus came and they just transferred to online teaching. And so since after Easter, students might not be here, but I know for a fact that they are being taught. In fact, one teacher shared with me that the first day of teaching online, when she saw 98% of her students were there, tears came to her eyes.
President of the St. Martin's Secondary School Past Students Association, Ronnie Daniels, said that with the understanding that some students were unable to participate in e-learning because of the lack of device, members in North America and here in SVG came up with the idea to buy tablets for these students.
Of March, someone in our alumni chat indicated that he will donate EC $100 to assist the school in any mitigation program that the school may contemplate during this time of COVID. And he employed others to do it too. We went silent for a while, but he was hoping to raise $16,000 EC to assist the school in whatever project. Then a few days later, another alumnus said this, and I quote, "With schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines being out because of COVID-19, what can we do to continue the learning process among SMSS students, keeping in mind that just about every student has a cell phone," end of quote. The point being made here is this: an idea, a suggestion.
Representative of the Ministry of Education, K. Martin Jack, said the ministry appreciates the donation of the St. Martin's Secondary School Past Students Association and encourage others to get on board to assist students with their academic development.
Urging other persons to follow the example set by the St. Martin's Past Students Association and come on board in sponsoring or donating towards worthy ventures at the St. Martin's Secondary School and by extension other schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. School leaders and principals, you are also encouraged to continue to build bridges between the various stakeholders with which you engage that will benefit the students and by large the community.
And 4 students of the UWI Open Campus SVG are the recipients of bursary for semester 2 2019 to 2020 from the ECGC Foundation Inc. The awardees are Kiwani Charles, who is pursuing a BSc in Accounting, Rodana Lachman, a BSc in Mathematics in Management Studies, International Management, Shanika Noel, BSc in Accounting, and Lioness Wickham, a BSc in Accounting.